Good morning, everyone. Kalimera sis. We'll continue on with our study of the Gospel of Matthew. But before we do that, I want to ask you to remember a young man this week in your prayers. This week, a person who was connected to the church but then drifted away from the church. His son, at 4 years old, died of cancer this week. So it's been a very, very tumultuous time for them and for their family. The young boy's name is Giovanni, and he contracted it when he was about 1.5 years old and passed away. The funeral will not be here. The funeral will be at Calvary Chapel on Tuesday, most likely at 12 noon. But we'll make an announcement for those of you who know him. This is Nick Maggio, the grandson of Father Nick, my predecessor here. His great-grandson is the one that passed away. So I'll ask you to keep him, again, the name is Giovanni. Please keep him in your prayers. Let's go to our gospel reading today. It's from the Gospel of Matthew, and you can take out your Bibles in your pews if you like to follow along. It's on page 49 and 50. Verses 9 to 27. Now as they came down from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, saying, "Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is risen from the dead." And his disciples asked him, saying, "Why then did the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" Jesus answered and said to them, "Indeed, Elijah is coming first and will restore all things. But I say to you that Elijah has come already, and they did not know him, but to him whenever they asked, they wished. Likewise, the Son of Man is also about to suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them of John the Baptist. Now, if you can remember some of the things that we have been talking about, there are references. Just that last reference we just read is sort of a second announcement of the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ. So within, Christ continues to go back and make references. And when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him kneeling down and said to him, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely. For he as often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him." Then Jesus answered and said, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. The disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" So Jesus said to them, "Because of your unbelief. For assuredly I say to you that if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to the mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." This again is going back to the references before when he said, people came to him and said, "I want to be cured, I want to be cured." And he didn't say, "I can do this." He said, "Your faith has made you well." That's very important for us to realize, that Jesus can give the action here, but you have to have action in receiving it. You have to be willing to receive it, and you have to believe that the miracle can actually happen. If it's sort of like, maybe I'll buy a lotto ticket and maybe it might hit, and it's not going to work that way, folks. There has to be a constant connection and a constant faith base. Let's see. Now, while they were staying in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and the third day he will rise again." So again, it's a shot across the bow. Look, apostles, disciples, people, this is going to happen. And they were exceedingly sorrowful. The final part, Jesus pays the temple tax. When they had come to Capernaum, where they received the temple tax, to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the temple tax?" It was a trick question. He said, "Yes." And when he had come into the house, Jesus anticipated him, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take customs or taxes? From their sons or from strangers?" Peter said to him, "From strangers." Jesus said to him, then the sons are free. Nevertheless, lest we offend them, go to the sea, cast in the hook, take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you'll find a piece of money, and take that and give it to them for me. This particular part of the Gospel of Matthew happens right after the Transfiguration of the Lord. And some people say, why was he not willing to let the disciples and the apostles say anything about what happens? He said, shh, don't tell anybody yet. Because he didn't want to bring upon himself and upon the disciples any more persecution. He wanted them, he was protecting them, preparing them for what was to come. Because he knew when he was raised, when he was crucified and raised from the dead, the persecution would become much, much greater. Because until this point, they kind of figured, well, he's a prophet. They talk about his miracles. They forgot about the 5 loaves that was done over there. They forgot about the wedding of Cana of Galilee there. But they said maybe these were just nice things that happened. So he said, look, we know what's going to happen. Let's just be a little more patient. So he descends from the mountain. He comes before them. The apostles now are filled with excitement, because now you can imagine that there has been a witness to the divinity of Christ. They have been present when the Holy Spirit said, "This is my Son in whom I am well pleased." The voice of God speaking. How many of us think sometimes when we're praying, okay, Lord, speak to me? How many have said that? I've said it all the time. Come on, Lord, give me direction. Punapao, tinakano. Many times, right? When else did that happen? This is my Son in whom I am well pleased. When do you remember that being said? The baptism. The baptism of Christ. John the Baptist baptizes the Son of God. The Holy Spirit comes down in the form of a dove. And we hear again, "This is my Son in whom I am well pleased." The amazing thing is, we're still not listening. We're still not listening, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about Siniliazume, the man who comes and says, "My son is an epileptic. He's fallen down. He convulses. What am I supposed to do with him? Have mercy on me," he comes to. The word Siniliazume literally means moonstruck. It indicates one who's given in to seizures. Suffered terribly, often falling, it says, into the fire and often into the water. Anyone who has had a sick child, who has a child that has tremendous needs, special needs, you parents, the parents or the grandparents or the sisters and brothers, you know how that turns your life upside down. And everything we do has to be for that child or that person. So we can only imagine, those of us that don't have children in that situation, how difficult it was. So he falls before him, and the Lord reacts strenuously to the father's lack of faith, for the man was part of the unbelieving and what was called then the perverse generation. His doubts had found fertile soil in the crowd that gathered, all murmuring. How many of us have been amongst people who are non-believers? How many of us have gone to confession and said, Father, everybody around me, they love to gossip. And they like to talk about people. What am I supposed to do? I said, step back from the group. But I'll lose my friends. Who needs friends like that? Because if they're gossiping about that person, you don't think when you're not present they're gossiping about you? Come on, Tora. Are we kidding? So it's a matter of lukewarm or hot and cold. You have to choose. We have to choose as people. He goes on and he rebukes the demon. The demon comes out, and of course, the young man is healed. Now, he does refer to of little faith. He refers to the mustard seed that grows very quickly. And he says that mountains can be moved if we have faith. There was a woman who came to a priest, and she said, Father, my husband is a real louse, and I want to divorce him. So the priest heard, and she went on with her diatribe of all the things that was wrong with her husband. And he marveled. He said, Madam, do you not have anything wrong with yourself? Is it all about your husband? Oh, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Okay, do this. What we should do is we should trick him. Be very nice to him for the next 2 months. Take care of him. Make him his favorite fasolakia there. Make all the nice things he likes. Smile. Be happy. Dress nice. Never complain. And then in 6 months, we'll nail him with the divorce papers. So the woman looks at the priest and she said, are you kidding? No, I'm dead serious. So she goes home. 1 month passes. 2 months passes. The priest starts to write out the papers. 3 months passes. 4 months passes. 5 months pass. 6 months pass. 8 months pass. What happened to her? Dring, dring, dring. Big, big, big. Hello? What's going on? How are you? I'm doing fine, Father. How are you? Fine, very good. I have the divorce papers here. Oh, forget that, she says. What do you mean, forget that? She said, I don't know. All of a sudden, he changed. Why did he change? I don't know. What did you do differently? I did everything you told me to do. Kiramu. My dear woman, you see? We have to have action. We have to do something if we expect a result. We have to do something. We have to react as the Father did. He fell before Christ and he said, help me. My son is an epileptic. I don't know what to do. And he trusted in God. And he did the right thing. And he was rewarded for that right thing. The thing that we face today is that the natural order of things that are created by God and that we're supposed to live to a higher level, we have become a people that are deaf to the truth and blind to his life and his crucifixion. I say it again. We've become deaf to the natural order of things and blind to the truth that he has given us. Let's go to the part of the tax. It's interesting how he says he tries to trap Jesus. He says, well, isn't your Lord, he says to Peter, isn't he going to pay the tax? Right? Trying to trick the Lord. Like we do today, we try to trick Jesus. Okay, yeah, he says, but let me ask you a question. From whom do you collect taxes? From whom do you try to collect money? From your sons? Or from strangers and business acquaintances? Oh, not my son. I would never take money from my son. He says, then guess what? The sons are free. He was referring to the Christians. The sons are free meant the people who believe in God. Go get it from the strangers. But, he says, so that you are not tortured and crucified and maligned, go to the water. What am I supposed to do with the water? He says, catch a fish. And the fish opened his mouth. And in the mouth, you will find the coin. A piece of, I can't believe it. So he goes to the water, opens the fish's mouth, takes the coin out, and gives it as the tax. So it did not come from his pocket, it came from the water. So again, the sons are free. In other words, we are not owned by anyone. The only one who has a claim to us is Christ himself. Very important part, and sometimes hidden, and people do not really see it often. Okay, who has the time? Theorine? 20 after. I want to give you a few minutes to see if you have any questions that you would like to ask. We don't normally do that, but I'd like to do that because we've been doing our Bible studies now for several weeks, so I'd like to take a couple of minutes. If you have, I have plenty of questions, but I want to see if you have questions. Any questions that you have? Faith-based. Don't ask me about the, parking lots, get that yet. That's for general assemblies. Any questions? Are you reading the gospel? Do you read it at home? Please do. Please do. Yes. Is it all right for a Greek Orthodox or an Orthodox Christian to take communion in a non-Orthodox church? The answer is no. In another Orthodox church? I'm sorry, yes, obviously, yes. Not obviously, yes. You can. If you go to a Russian Orthodox church, a Serbian Orthodox church, a Syrian Orthodox church, you can receive. You want to make sure that the church you visit is in communion with us. Because there are some churches who are schismatic churches. They're break-off churches. And their teachings are not correct. But you can go online to what's called the Assembly of Canonical Bishops in America, and there's a listing there of all the churches throughout the United States that you can go to. If you want to go to a church outside of the country and visit, I don't know how many have gone to the Facebook page of OCN, of the Orthodox Christian Network. I see you there often. You can see pictures from churches all over the world. And people putting in there also their prayer corners. It's so beautiful. I mean, people in far stretches of the earth that are Orthodox Christians, 350 million people, are coming together and talking to each other and praying with each other. It's a wonderful thing. Yes, good question. There's also a little sheet in the bulletin that talks about people who are Orthodox Christian, people who are not Orthodox Christian who may visit us. And it's important that we came up with the word philoxenos, but sometimes we're not philoxenos, the friend of the stranger or the different person. So it's important that you meet the person around you and you say good morning to the person around you. And you don't always sit in the same pew. You move. This way I know that you're not there or you're there, by the way. I can tell. Because if you sit in the same spot every week, I know if you're not here. Then I call you and say, Puishana, where were you? All right? Okay, other questions? Yes? Yes, okay. I can answer that. No, it's a very good question. The question is, why don't we have on the myocn.net page saints? We do. If you look under daily readings, we actually produce them. Every day there is the production of the readings of the saints as well as the gospel, epistle and gospel reading. So you can find them there. If you don't have time to listen, which sometimes happens, you can go to the Go Arch page and you can sign up and it comes to you every day as well. Okay? But it is there and it's produced by a gentleman in Orlando, Florida, believe it or not, who used to work for Disney. And he's there and he produces it every day. So it's there. Okay? Good question. Any other questions? I would like to ask for your prayers. This is a special group that comes to pray with us every morning and comes for our Bible study. This week, and I'll announce it later too so the kids can hear, this week I leave on Thursday for the Vatican and to go to Greece to represent the Patriarchate in the second live worldwide broadcast on EWTN when Pope Francis will visit the Ecumenical Patriarch on the occasion of the Patronal Throne, which is a very special day because what happens is the Pope visits the Patriarchate and the Patriarch visits the Vatican on the time when both celebrate their respective name days, St. Peter and now Andrew. Andrew is the 29th and then the 30th. So we'll go there and it'll be broadcast in 5 languages. I will do the English with another person from the Vatican. It's very important. Why? We are not going to join with the Roman Catholic Church tomorrow, but we have to realize that we were one church for the first 1,000 years. Whether people want to admit it or not, we share all of those saints, the millions of people that were slaughtered, the priests, the deacons, the bishops, the lay people, the martyrs of the church, we share that first 1,000 years. Now after that, mistakes were made. So we have to work together. Together, Roman Catholic Church people and Orthodox people amount to 20% of the world's population. 20%. So if we're both shooting in different directions, are we surprised that you know who comes in the middle, the devil, and creates all this strangeness, all this out of order things that are going on, which are now being proclaimed as part of the world order? Why? Because the voice of the church is deafening. We cannot hear it many times. So I ask for your prayers. It's an awesome responsibility. It is a personal request from the ecumenical patriarch to be involved in that team. That's quite an honor for this community. And I'll send out all the information so that you can listen to it. It'll be different because we'll be talking more about the patriarchate and about the difficulties of the Orthodox Christians. There were at one point 400,000 Orthodox Christians in Constantinople, today's Istanbul. Today, we're fortunate if there are 2,000 left. So we have to remain strong. So I ask for your prayers. Let's go with the doxology, and we'll go to our liturgy. Thank you. Going to use it? Oh, he brought it. Good. Give me.